Dr. David Bull's Sunday Surgery.
Well, this is a really important topic, actually. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. It's something that we're not very good at talking about, and I thought it was important that we did this. There's an article that I was reading, actually, about a family that was ripped apart when one of the children took their own lives. And there was a line in it here which I thought was very pertinent. You don't ever realise suicide can affect your family, that it can happen to your children, to your cousins, to your friends, to anyone. And it goes on to say more help should be available when people are looking for support. Well, I'm delighted to welcome Beverly Bishop now, who is a performer. She's also the mum of Jess, and Jess very sadly took his own life. Good morning to you.
Good morning, David.
Thank you so much for coming on to talk to us, because it's really difficult for you, I know, but it's also such an important topic. Can you start at the beginning and tell us your story?
My son, Jess, beautiful boy. He went to UEA. He was only at UEA for 2 weeks. And I remember I wasn't working that day, and I'd gone for a walk, and I got home, and there were two policemen standing outside my door, and I knew something terrible had happened, but it hadn't even registered that it might be linked to Jess. I just knew that something terrible had happened. And I remember this feeling of panic. I let the police in, and they told me tragically that my son had taken his life. He'd only been at UEA for 2 weeks, and he was really excited to go to university. He'd worked really, really hard to get his exams, and he did struggle with his mental health. But I thought things were looking up for him, and even the day before he died, or even the evening he died, I remember I got in touch with him, and I said, I'm driving into Norwich, shall I pop over and have a cup of tea? And I just got a message back from him saying, oh no, it's all right, I'm at a pub quiz. I'll see you another time. So I thought, well, everything's fine. And then even a number of hours later, he was on the phone to his dad, raging because his team had come second, and he truly believed that the people who'd won had cheated. So even then, there didn't appear to be any signs that he was going to take his life that night. So when I found out, it was a huge, huge shock, devastating. It's the kind of news that no parent should have to receive, really. And I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Words fail me, really, in that way. I would never have imagined that I would receive that kind of news. Truly devastating.
And
He's such...
Sorry, I was just going to say.
Don't interrupt me, because I could go on and on.
No,
and on
no,
and on.
and it's. I mean, your story is incredibly moving, and I'm so sorry. You said that he had some mental health issues, but as you said, obviously he felt happier in himself. He was excited to go to university and so on. Were there any clues as to what he might do, or indeed any cries for help?
Yes, actually. Hindsight is a great thing, isn't it? And that's what's difficult, because you can't rewind, you can't turn back the clock. He had reached out for help. He went to see the GP, and he got referred to CAMHS. I went with him. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great experience for him. like we went home and he said he refused to go back because he said, why would a middle-aged man wearing a suit asking me questions from a questionnaire? What does he know about me? He showed no interest in me. He was just more interested in filling in the questionnaire. And Jess being Jess, it was his personality. Once he makes his mind up about something, that's it. He's quite dogged. And he refused to go back, which I feel really sad about. But then following that, he refused any kind of help because he didn't believe that there was help out there that would make a difference for him. And he said, well, I talk to you, you understand me, nobody else will understand me. In March, we're coming up to his 5th anniversary, actually. He died on the 11th of October. In the March time, he did say to me, I know how I'm going to die. It's more a question of when. And I'm telling you now so that you're not shocked or surprised. And that statement shook me to the core. And then I tried to have a follow-up conversation about it, but then he just laughed it off and he said, oh, I was just having a bad day yesterday. I'll forget about it. And he refused to go back to that conversation. And I wish, hindsight's a great thing, but I wished I'd have done something with that information, if you like.
Of course, and as you say, hindsight is it's easy with hindsight, and you must never blame yourself for what happened. Let me just bring in, thank you for being so candid as well. Let me bring in Lawrence Butterfield, who is a mental health nurse and campaigner. Lawrence, your thoughts on hearing this story from Beverly. Obviously, Jess went to CAMHS, didn't like the experience, the idea that you have someone with a clipboard in a suit doing a tick box exercise instead of understanding what drove Jess, being interested in Jess, asking pertinent questions, relevant questions.
It's just a tragedy, David, and I'm so sorry to hear Beverly about Jess. Words fail me. To be honest, obviously, a lot of this comes down to attitude of staff and prioritising face-to-face meetings with people, the human touch, being empathetic, rather than filling in a form. You're lucky enough these days to actually get an appointment with the GP, to actually use services. Normally, you're waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks to get some sort of talking therapy. It's just the whole system seems to be counterproductive when it comes to helping people with mental health problems. I just can't believe how I'm hearing these stories on a regular basis, to be honest.
And why do you think that is? Is it a lack of money? Is it a lack of willpower? Is it the wrong people in the job?
Well, certainly money makes a difference. Successive governments always talk about we're going to spend this money on mental health services, but mental health services have always been the Cinderella of health services. And that money never seems to materialise, or if it does materialise, it isn't spent in the right areas. So certainly a lack of money, and also I think a lack of awareness, really. Maybe a different approach to, like I said before, of having more of a human approach, being more empathetic rather than this need to fill in forms and put information on computers. I suppose statistics help in a way, but there is a lot of emphasis these days on form filling and paperwork, and it's almost like the bedside manner seems to have gone. We seem to have lost that ability to actually treat people as people as human beings and having that emotional touch with people. So yes, it's about money. It's also, I think, about training. I'm sort of old school. I trained 40 years ago to be a mental health nurse. So I've got 40 years of experience. And I remember at the time there was a lot more emphasis on face-to-face consultations, interventions. You know, much more emphasis on a caring, personal touch. And sometimes I feel that's missing out. But also appreciate that these areas are understaffed. So people carrying huge caseloads of clients. So it is difficult. A lot of pressure is on the staff as well.
Absolutely.
Because they're trying their best in
yeah, Lawrence, thank you very much for your time. That's Lawrence Butterfield, mental health nurse and campaigner there. Let me bring Beverly back in, if I may. Beverly, you know, it is so difficult for you to talk about this. As you said, it's the anniversary coming up.
Yeah.
Just in terms, I mean, obviously Jess's memory will be with you forever. Just in terms of how you get closure, or indeed learn to carry on, how you live every single day, how do you manage that?
Well, when Jess died and I went to see him every day at the funeral home and talked to him, I promised him that I would live the best life I possibly could, because I'm living it for the two of us now. And I owe it to him to live a really good life, because if I don't, that's 2 lives wasted. And his life isn't wasted, because he will never, ever be forgotten. And that's what really helps me. I promised him I'd live a good life, and he will be remembered. And I do things for him, if you like. So I take myself out for dinner because he would like that. I've made myself a bucket list of things that I want to achieve, because I'm thinking, you know, he'll be there saying, go on, mom, have a good life. And also I've become mindful that, you know, grief is a very complicated thing. And I struggle with my emotions.
Of course.
And I think perhaps I struggle with my mental health as well. So what I do is I share with people what I find helpful, in the hope that perhaps, like, if I find things helpful in dealing with my deep, distressing anguish, it might help other people as well. And that in itself can make a difference.
It certainly can.
And I consider myself to be really lucky. I'm really passionate about the arts, and I have a need to express myself. So, you know, I've created 2 pieces of work as a result of Jess dying. And that keeps me going as well.
And that positive outlook is just so important. Beverly, I think you're a remarkable human being, and our thoughts go to you, and I'm sure Jess would be incredibly proud of what you're doing. So. Oh, I absolutely sure.
Love you, Jess.
Thank you so much for talking to us this morning. That's Beverly Bishop, performer and mum of Jess, who very sadly took his own life. Now, if you are affected by anything discussed this morning, please do visit talk.tv/helplines. Help is there, and it's really important that we talk about these things, actually, as you heard there. And I think you'll agree with me, Beverly is quite a remarkable woman. This is Talk TV.